With less than 3 weeks remaining before the pivotal August 15, 2026 governorship election of Osun State, our state stands at a delicate crossroads. The choices made by political actors, law enforcement institutions, traditional authorities, and citizens over the next few weeks will determine whether Osun State cements its reputation as a peaceful beacon of democratic maturation or slides into avoidable chaos, institutional decay, and civic disenfranchisement. It is in light of this heavy responsibility that we address the press and the public today on 4 urgent, interconnected core issues that demand immediate corrective actions. 1. Worsening insecurity in Osun State and the imperative for free, fair, and credible elections. In recent months, the internal security landscape of Osun State has experienced an alarming and progressive deterioration. What was historically acclaimed as one of the most peaceful states in the southwest geopolitical zone is now being increasingly destabilized by widespread court violence, armed political thuggery, and high-stakes clashes associated with the upcoming elections. Citizens in urban centers like Osogbo, Ede, Ilesha, and Ife live under an atmosphere of growing apprehension as rivalry between heavily armed political factions and rival court groups frequently spills into public spaces, disrupting commerce, threatening life, and undermining public peace. This escalating wave of insecurity cannot be viewed in isolation from the upcoming August 15 governorship election. It is a recognized pattern in our political history that state-sanctioned or tolerated lawlessness often serves as a precursor to voter suppression, electoral intimidation, and the creation of an atmosphere of fear designed to keep law-abiding citizens away from the polling units. When violent elements operate with brazen impunity in broad daylight, citizens naturally lose confidence in the capacity of the state apparatus to protect their lives and votes. This threatens the very foundation of popular sovereignty and democratic legitimacy. We sound a stand note of caution to all relevant stakeholders, the state government, political parties, candidates, campaign structures, local government administrators, and security agencies, that the peace and stability of Osun State must not be sacrificed on the altar of desperate political ambition. Elections are a formal, peaceful exercise of civic preference and sovereign choice, not a military conquest or a trial by combat. We demand that political parties immediately disband all informal security outfits, armed militias, and political enforcement squads operating under various disguises across the state. Furthermore, we call upon the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security to deploy robust, impartial, and proactive security measures to every polling unit and collation centers across the 332 wards in Osun State. Security forces must ensure that voters can come out en masse on August 15 without fear of assault, intimidation, or harassment. A free, fair, and credible election can only take place in an environment where the security of the ballot and the safety of the voters are absolutely guaranteed. 2. The ongoing NURTW crisis, and the need for transport union independence. This overt political interference and forced imposition of union leadership by state and local government authorities violates the fundamental principles of trade union, autonomy, freedom of association, and the rule of law. When government institutions turn transport unions into state-backed political enforcers, they undermine public safety and create a shadow force that operates above the law, routinely used to intimidate voters, execute political violence, and enforce compliance during electoral cycles. The Osun mastermind hereby sounds a firm note of warning to the Osun state government, all 30 local government chairmen, and political gladiators across party lines to immediately cease all partisan interference in the affairs of the NURTW and motor park management. Transport unions must be allowed full structural and operational independence to elect their leadership democratically through transparent processes in full compliance with trade union laws. State and local governments must restrict their involvement strictly to revenue regulation and public safety enforcement, rather than attempting to unpick union bosses as political mercenaries. The independence of the transport sector is non-negotiable for the preservation of economic order and civic peace in Osun State. 3. Involvement of traditional rulers in politics and the erosion of royal trust. Our coalition feels with great concern the increasing and unabashed involvement of traditional rulers, our revered Obas and royal fathers, in partisan politics ahead of the August 15 governorship election. The traditional institutions in Yoruba land, and also state in particular, owns a sacred historical position as the custodian of our culture, value, peace, and communal cohesion. Traditional rulers are by design and cultural expectation the spiritual and moral fathers of all citizens in their respective domains, regardless of political affiliation, religious belief, or social status. When a king descends into the political arena, dons the jersey of a political party, and takes a partisan side, he voluntarily strips himself of the sacred neutrality and grants him moral authority over his people. The partisan entanglement is dangerously eroding the trust, respect, and reverence that the public historically owes for the royal throne. We make an impassioned appeal and sound a respectful yet firm caution to all royal fathers across Osun State. Step back from partisan politics and preserve the sacred sanctity of your thrones. Royal palaces must remain open sanctuaries for all candidates and citizens alike, providing fatherly blessings, moral counsel, and prayer for peace, rather than serving as partisan strategic rooms. 4. Politically motivated arrests and the mandate for police neutrality. As we enter the final stretch before the August 15 governorship election, the Osun State masterminds expresses deep alarm over the escalating trend of politically motivated arrests, arbitrary detentions, and selective law enforcement targeting opposition figures, political activists, media commentators, and critical civic voices across Osun State. Reports reaching our coalition indicate a disturbing pattern where state power and police machinery are being weaponized to settle political scores, suppress dissenting political views, and instill fear in the opposition campaign structure. The police force is an institution funded by taxpayers to protect the life, liberty, and property of every Nigerian citizen. Regardless of their political alignment, the police must never allow itself to be turned into a tool for sinister political errands, private vendettas, or partisan suppression by those currently occupying executive offices or those seeking power. We advise the leadership of the Nigerian police force to maintain absolute neutrality, professionalism, and strict adherence to the rule of law throughout this election season and beyond. Every citizen arrested under any allegation must be treated in strict accordance with constitutional provision, and that includes presumption of innocence, granted immediate access to legal representation and family, charged to court of competent jurisdiction within standard statutory timeline if an actual offence has been committed. Any police officer who allows himself to be used as a political hatchetman will ultimately be held accountable under the law and before the bar of public opinion. In conclusion, distinguished members of the press, civil society partners, and fellow citizens of Osun State, we present this address today out of our profound commitment to the progress, peace, and democratic health of our beloved state. Osun State belongs to all its citizens, not to any political party, candidate, union cabal, or powerful interest group.